The night was cold. The wind cut across the dark valley like a sharp knife. A lonely figure moved through the shadows. It was a mother, holding her child close against her chest. Her arms shook, not from the cold, but from fear and pain. The boy in her arms was weak. His chest rose and fell with great effort. Every breath was a fight. His skin had turned pale blue, his eyes half closed. His lungs were failing. Each minute was stealing his life away. The mother's heart beat fast. She had already tried everything. She had visited healers in her city. She had begged the doctors of her own kind. They had given her words, but no answers. "There is nothing we can do," they told her. "His lungs cannot be repaired." But a mother's heart never accepts defeat. She could not watch her son fade away, and so she had chosen to break the rules, to take the most dangerous step a mother could take. She was going to the humans. The humans lived on the edge of the colony, far from the other races. They were not trusted. The Galactic Law was clear. Aliens must never ask for human help, especially medical help. Humans were too different. Their ways were forbidden. Anyone who broke this law could be punished, even executed. Still, the mother ran through the night. She did not care about the law. She cared only about the small life pressed against her chest. His faint breathing was her guide. If he stopped breathing, her world would end. Her feet struck the dirt road. Her eyes searched the dark horizon. Ahead, there was a single house with a light burning inside. The human doctor lived there. She had heard whispers about him. Some called him dangerous. Others called him kind. She prayed the second was true. The boy gasped again, a dry rattle escaping his throat. The sound made the mother's heart break. She whispered in his ear, "Stay with me, my son. Just a little longer. Just a little longer." The night was silent except for the crunch of her steps and her son's shallow breaths. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Every whisper of wind felt like a warning. If anyone saw her running to the human's house, they could report her. She would not only lose her son, but also her life. At last she reached the door. Her hand shook as she raised it. For a moment she froze. What if the human refused her? What if he turned her away? Worse, what if he reported her to the council? Her son let out a weak cry, so soft it almost broke into silence. That sound tore through her fear. She struck the door hard once, twice, 3 times. The sound echoed in the night. She waited, holding her son tight. The door creaked open. A tall figure stood there, framed by the warm light inside. It was the human doctor. His eyes widened as he saw the mother and the child in her arms. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the child's labored breathing filled the air. The mother fell to her knees. She raised her son toward the human. Her voice broke into desperate cries. "Please help him. He cannot breathe. He will die. Please, I beg you." The human looked down at them. His face was hard, but his eyes were soft. He glanced at the child, then at the mother. His hands clenched at his sides. He knew the law. Everyone knew the law. To help an alien child was to break the rules of the galaxy. It was to call punishment upon himself. The mother saw the conflict in his eyes. Her heart pounded with terror. She pressed her forehead to the ground and cried louder. "I have nowhere else to go. They told me he cannot be saved. But you humans, they say you can do the impossible. Please, prove them right. Save him." The doctor's shadow stretched across the ground. His face was caught between fear and compassion. Behind him, strange tools gleamed in the light of his home. Machines hummed, waiting for hands to use them. The boy coughed, a dry and painful sound. His body twitched weakly. The mother sobbed, rocking him back and forth. The human took one step forward. His hand reached out, hesitating in the air. His eyes burned with a question only his heart could answer. Should he obey the law and turn away, or should he risk everything to save this child? The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his choice. And in that heavy silence, the mother lifted her tear-streaked face. Her eyes shone with pain, with hope, with desperation that could break the hardest stone. "Please," she whispered again, her voice no stronger than the boy's last breath. The human's jaw tightened. He looked at the child one more time, then finally reached down and lifted him from the mother's arms. The mother gasped in relief, but also in fear. She did not know what would come next. She only knew this. The human had made his choice. The door closed behind them. The night outside was silent once more, but inside the story of mercy and danger had just begun. The door clicked shut. The room was filled with the low hum of machines, the faint glow of monitors, and the heavy sound of the boy's struggling breath. The human doctor carried the child carefully, as if holding glass that might break at any moment. The mother followed, her legs trembling, her hands clasped together in fear and hope. The human placed the child gently on a long metal table. Lights above flickered to life. Strange instruments gleamed, tools of human science that few aliens had ever seen. The mother's eyes darted from one machine to another. She had heard many stories about human ways, half of them fear, half of them wonder. Some said humans healed with skill greater than machines. Others said humans were reckless, playing with life like it was clay. She did not know which was true. The human leaned over the boy. His fingers pressed against the child's neck, searching for a pulse. His eyes narrowed. The boy's chest lifted weakly, each breath shallower than the last. The doctor muttered to himself, his voice low but sharp. The lungs collapsing. The airways too weak, without support. Minutes at best. The mother stepped forward, clutching her cloak tightly. Can you save him? Her voice cracked, heavy with fear. The human looked at her, his eyes cold for a moment. If I try, I break the law. If anyone finds out, I will be taken. Maybe worse. The mother's heart stopped. She knew this was the truth. The Galactic Law was not merciful. It had been written to keep species apart, to keep humans in their place. To break it was to invite chains or death, but her son let out another desperate gasp. That sound tore through the walls of fear like fire through paper. Please, she whispered, tears sliding down her face. What is a law against a child's life? The human's jaw clenched. He turned away, his hands gripping the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. Inside him, two voices battled. One was the voice of survival. Obey the law. Protect yourself. Do not risk everything for strangers. The other voice was something older, something that burned deep in his human heart. This is a child. He is innocent. To walk away is to let him die. The human closed his eyes. He remembered Earth, the place he once called home. He remembered the oath he had taken as a doctor, to protect life no matter who or what it was. That promise had no borders, no species, no chains. His eyes opened again, sharper than before. He looked at the mother. If I do this, you must understand there is no going back. If they come for me, they will come for you as well. Are you ready for that? The mother dropped to her knees. For my son, I would give my life. Do what you must, just save him. The boy let out a weak cough, his body jerking once before falling still. The doctor leaned over quickly, pressing strange pads against his chest. A machine beeped, lines flashing across its screen. He's fading, the doctor said, his voice tight. The mother clutched her hands together and whispered a prayer in her tongue. The human took a deep breath as if sealing his fate. Then I choose. He turned, pulling a tray of tools closer. His hands moved with speed but not panic. Years of training, years of human persistence flowed through his motions. I will save him. The mother gasped, relief breaking through her tears. The doctor began working, attaching wires, placing a mask over the child's face. Machines roared to life, pumping air, feeding oxygen, scanning organs. The human's brow dripped with sweat, but his hands never shook. The mother watched, every second feeling like an hour. She saw the human bend over her son with total focus, like a warrior locked in battle. Yet in the back of her mind, fear whispered, what if someone knows? What if the enforcers arrive? Every sound outside the house made her flinch. Every shadow at the window made her think of soldiers. But she stayed because hope burned brighter than fear. The boy's chest began to rise, a little steadier, though still weak. The doctor adjusted the mask, his voice low but firm. He needs more than air. His lungs are broken beyond repair. If I do nothing else, he will fail again. The mother's eyes widened. Then what? What can you do? The human glanced at her, his face hard, determined. I will build him new lungs. The words hit her like thunder. New lungs? It sounded like a dream or madness. You can do that? She whispered. His eyes burned with that strange human fire. I can try, but it will take everything I know, everything I have, and once I begin, there is no stopping. The mother trembled. Her people would call this forbidden. The council would call this crime. But to her it was a miracle. She bowed her head. Then try. For him, for me, I do not care about the law. I care about my son. The doctor nodded once. He turned back to his machines. His choice was made, his path sealed. He would defy the galaxy itself if it meant saving one small life. And as the night grew deeper, and the stars outside burned cold, inside that small house a human prepared to break the law. Not for power, not for glory, but for mercy. The mother stood by, her heart a storm of fear and hope. The child lay still, caught between life and death, and the human doctor, hands steady, began the impossible. The room was filled with the sound of machines. Lights blinked, wires curled across the floor, and tools shone under the glow of lamps. The human doctor stood over his table, staring at the boy who struggled to breathe even with the mask. Each weak breath was a reminder that time was running out. The mother stood nearby, her hands pressed together, her eyes never leaving her son. She wanted to reach out to hold him, but she feared she might break the rhythm of the human's work. Her heart trembled with every beep from the monitors. The doctor spoke in a low voice, more to himself than to her. His lungs are broken beyond repair. The tissue has collapsed. The air sacs cannot hold oxygen. No healer in this galaxy could restore them, but... He paused, his eyes narrowing as sparks of thought flashed across his mind. "I can replace them," the mother gasped softly. "Replace? With what?" The human turned to a wall lined with strange cabinets. He pulled them open one by one. Inside were pieces of metal, coils of wire, translucent membranes, and vials of glowing liquid. His fingers moved quickly, choosing parts, setting them on the table. "I have been building designs for years," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "The Council forbids me to use them. They fear human ideas. They fear what we can build. But tonight..." He looked down at the boy, whose chest rose and fell like a candle about to die. "I will not let fear rule me." The mother stepped closer, whispering, "You mean, you have dreamed of this before?" The doctor nodded once. "Artificial lungs. Machines that can breathe for those who cannot. I designed them for humans first, but in theory they can work for anyone." His hands began to move faster. He set up a small 3D printer, its nozzle glowing red as it melted strange threads into thin, flexible sheets. He combined these sheets with microtubes no wider than a hair. The sound of clinking metal and hissing gas filled the room. The mother's eyes widened. It was like watching a craftsman build life from nothing. But the doctor's face was hard with focus. Every step mattered. One wrong calculation, one failed piece, and the child would not live. The boy let out a sudden cough, his small body jerking weakly. The mother rushed forward, but the doctor raised a hand. "Do not move him. His body is fighting for time. We must finish before that time ends." The mother froze, her eyes filling with tears. She pressed her hand over her mouth, trying not to cry too loudly. The doctor worked faster. He cut into soft membranes, shaping them into sacs that could expand and contract. He wove them with thin wires to act as support, so they would not collapse. He attached small pumps that would push air, mimicking natural breath. It was not just science. It was art, the mother whispered to herself, barely believing what she saw. "He builds life." The doctor didn't hear her. He was lost in his work. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his breathing heavy. He whispered numbers under his breath, running through equations. Oxygen intake, blood compatibility, airflow pressure. Every detail was war against time. At last he held up a small structure. It glistened under the light. A pair of artificial lungs shining like silver shells wrapped in crystal film. They pulsed softly as if already alive. The mother gasped, her knees weak. They look real." The human shook his head. "Not real, but they may work." He placed them carefully into a sterile case. "Now comes the hardest part, the operation. If I fail, he will not survive the night." The mother's heart pounded. She stepped forward, falling to her knees beside the table. She pressed her lips to her son's hand. "My child, hold on. Hold on just a little longer." The boy's chest rattled again, the mask hissing as it pumped failing breaths. His small fingers twitched. The human prepared his tools. He pulled on gloves, adjusted the surgical lights, and sterilized his instruments. His face was pale but firm. He looked at the mother. "Once I begin, there is no turning back. Do you trust me?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not look away. "I trust you with everything I have." The doctor nodded once. He leaned over the boy, his hands steady, his eyes sharp. He placed the artificial lungs beside him, ready to replace what was broken. Outside, The night was silent, but it felt heavy, as if the stars themselves were watching. The mother clasped her hands and whispered, "Please let him live." The doctor took a deep breath. His choice was already made. Now it was time to see if human mercy could truly defy death itself. He picked up the scalpel, and with the first cut, the battle for the child's life began. The surgical lights burned bright. Shadows stretched across the walls as the human doctor bent over the boy. The tools were ready, the artificial lungs shining like fragile jewels beside him. The mother stood close, her hands trembling, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The boy's chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. Each breath sounded weaker than the one before. The machine that kept him alive beeped in warning as if counting down to the end. The human took a deep breath and whispered to himself. Steady hands. No mistakes, he picked up the scalpel. The blade gleamed under the light. With calm precision, he made the first cut across the boy's chest. The mother's eyes widened, her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream to stop him, but she knew this was the only path. Blood welled, but the human moved quickly, sealing vessels, guiding tubes. His face was stone, his hands sure. Every motion was sharp, exact, without hesitation. The mother covered her mouth, tears sliding down her cheeks. She whispered prayers in her tongue over and over, her body shaking. The boy twitched once, his body reacting to the touch of metal and fire. The doctor's voice was firm. "Stay with me, little one. Don't leave now." With careful hands, he opened the chest wider. The mother saw something she had never thought she would. The boy's broken lungs, gray and weak, barely moving. It was like watching a dying flame flickering before darkness. Her knees almost gave way. She clutched the side of the table to keep from falling. The human didn't flinch. He reached in, disconnecting the ruined organs. Machines beeped louder, alarms flashing red. The boy's breath faltered. The mother gasped. The doctor barked, "Quiet! I need focus." His eyes were locked on the fragile body before him. He worked faster, moving with speed born not of panic but of training. He pulled out the dead lungs, laying them aside. The boy's chest was now still. The monitor screamed. The mother's heart shattered. "No," she cried, falling to her knees. Her hands pressed together as if she could pray life back into her son. "Please don't take him." The human's voice cut through her despair. "Not yet. He is not gone. Trust me." His hands reached for the artificial lungs. They pulsed faintly as if eager to begin their duty. He placed them carefully into the empty chest, attaching each tube, each vessel one by one. His forehead dripped with sweat. His jaw was clenched. Every second felt like a battle against death itself. The mother could hardly breathe. Her eyes darted between the child's still body and the human's determined face. "Come on," the doctor whispered. "Come on, work." He connected the final tube. He pressed a button on the control panel. The artificial lungs expanded once, then fell. Again they expanded, pushing air into the boy's body, but the monitors were still flat. The mother sobbed, pressing her forehead to the floor. It failed. "He is gone." The human growled under his breath, shaking his head. "No, not yet. Not while I still fight." He grabbed two small pads connected to wires. He pressed them to the boy's chest. "Clear!" A jolt of electricity surged. The boy's body jumped. The monitors beeped once, then fell silent again. "Clear!" the doctor shouted again. Another jolt. The mother looked up through her tears. The boy's chest rose faintly. The line on the monitor flickered. Beep, beep. Weak, but alive. The doctor leaned closer, his eyes fierce. "Breathe, little one. You have new lungs now. Breathe." The artificial lungs expanded again, steady this time, filling the child with air. His small chest began to rise and fall, no longer with desperate gasps, but with rhythm. The beeping on the monitor grew stronger. Beep, beep, beep. The mother's hands fell from her face. Her tears flowed, but now they were mixed with hope. She stumbled forward, gripping the edge of the table. He breathes?" The human gave a single nod, his voice low, tired but strong. "Yes, he breathes." The mother let out a cry that was half sob, half laugh. She pressed her forehead to her son's hand, shaking with relief. "Thank you. Thank you." The doctor didn't smile. His face was still serious. He adjusted the settings, watching the numbers on the screen. He is not safe yet. His body must accept the lungs. Rejection is possible. Infection is possible. We are only at the beginning. But the boy's chest rose and fell, steady now. That was enough for the mother. For the first time in weeks, she saw life in her child. The human stepped back, pulling off his gloves. His hands shook now that the fight was done. He sat heavily on a chair, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. The mother turned to him, falling to her knees. "You gave him back to me. I will never forget this." The doctor closed his eyes for a moment. In his mind, he heard the voice of the law, cold and merciless. "You have broken the rule. You will pay." But when he opened his eyes and saw the boy breathing, he knew his choice was right. The night outside remained silent, but inside the small house, hope lived again. The mother held her son's hand, whispering softly, "Breathe, my child. Breathe." And the boy did. The boy breathed. His small chest rose and fell with steady rhythm, the artificial lungs glowing faintly inside his body. The mother sat at his side, her tears drying on her cheeks, her heart finally calm after endless nights of fear. The human doctor leaned back in his chair, silent. His face was pale with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed fixed on the monitor that showed the boy's vital signs. Stronger now, steady, alive. For a moment, the house was filled with peace. Only the quiet hum of machines broke the silence. The mother whispered soft thanks to the human, her voice trembling with gratitude. But peace never lasts long under the shadow of law. Far away in the dark skies above the colony, ships were already moving. Black vessels with sharp wings cut through the night. Their engines rumbled like thunder. At their core sat the enforcers of the Galactic Council, guardians of the forbidden rules. They had heard whispers, rumors of a mother who had broken the greatest law by seeking human aid. Inside the house, the mother felt a strange chill. Her body tensed. Her ears caught a low vibration in the air, a sound she had prayed she would never hear. The sound of approaching ships. The human looked up from the monitor. His jaw tightened. He heard it too. The mother's voice cracked. "They are coming, aren't they?" He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes was enough. The boy stirred faintly, letting out a soft breath through his new lungs. The mother touched his hand, torn between joy and terror. "He lives, but now they will take everything." The sound grew louder. Outside, lights swept across the valley, bright beams cutting through the darkness like knives. Dust shook from the ceiling as the ships descended. The human stood. His tall figure was shadowed by the glow of his machines. "You must take your child and leave. If they find you here, they will punish you too." But the mother shook her head fiercely, clutching her son closer. "No, I will not leave you. You saved him. I will not run while you suffer." The human's eyes softened for a moment, but then hardened again. "The council will not show mercy. They will call me criminal. They will call you guilty. If you stay, you risk his future too." Before she could answer, the ground trembled. A voice boomed outside, cold and metallic. "By order of the Galactic Council, this house is under arrest. Open the door at once." The mother's blood ran cold. She hugged her child tightly, rocking him as if her arms could shield him from the galaxy itself. The human walked to the door, his steps heavy but fearless. His hand hovered near the handle, then stopped. He looked back at the mother. "Whatever happens, remember this. He breathes because of you. Because you chose to fight." Her tears returned, burning her cheeks. She wanted to scream, to beg him not to open the door. But she knew there was no choice. The law had found them. The door shuddered under a blast. Dust fell from the ceiling. The enforcers would not wait for mercy. With a steady motion, the human unlocked the door. It swung open to reveal tall, armored figures, their faces hidden behind silver masks. Their weapons glowed with electric light, humming with deadly power. Behind them, ships floated in the air, their engines roaring like beasts. The lead enforcer stepped forward. His voice was sharp, metallic, merciless. "You stand accused of breaking galactic law. You gave forbidden aid. You built forbidden machines. You risked the order of the stars. For this, you will be taken." The mother stepped forward, holding her son tight against her chest. Her voice broke as she cried out, "He saved my child, look at him. He is alive because of this man." She pulled back the cloth that covered the boy's chest. The artificial lungs glowed faintly through his skin, rising and falling with steady breath. The enforcers stared for a moment, then the lead one raised his weapon. "That is proof of his crime. The child will be studied. The human will be punished." The mother screamed, "No, you will not take him." She pressed her son closer, her body shaking with fury and terror. The doctor stepped between her and the enforcers, his tall frame a shield. His voice was calm but heavy with iron. "If you want them, you must go through me." The enforcers raised their weapons higher. The air crackled with power. The mother's heart pounded so loud she could hear nothing else. Outside, the night that had once carried hope now carried doom. The stars above looked down, cold and silent, as the weight of law fell upon the small house. The boy stirred again, his breath steady, unaware of the storm around him. The mother's eyes burned with tears as she clung to him. She whispered, "Please, let Mercy win." But the enforcer's leader only said, "Mercy is not the law." And with that, chains of light wrapped around the human's wrists, binding him. The mother cried out, her voice echoing into the night as the doctor was dragged toward the waiting ship. Her child lived, but the price of life was now a fight against the galaxy itself. The council hall was vast and cold. Tall pillars stretched into the shadows above, carved with the symbols of every species that obeyed the galactic law. At the center stood a wide platform where the accused was displayed. The human doctor stood there, his wrists bound with glowing chains. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with quiet defiance. Around him, hundreds of alien delegates filled the chamber, their voices rising like thunder. Some shouted for punishment, others demanded silence, and still others only watched with cold curiosity. The mother stood at the edge of the hall, clutching her son tightly. The boy breathed softly against her shoulder, his new lungs rising and falling with steady rhythm. To her, that sound was the proof of a miracle. To the council, it was the proof of a crime. A booming voice silenced the chamber. It came from the high speaker, a towering alien with silver skin and 6 eyes that gleamed like ice. His voice carried power, and his words echoed through the hall. "Human, you are charged with breaking the highest law. You used forbidden science. You gave aid to one outside your kind. You risked the balance of the galaxy. Do you deny this?" The human raised his head. His voice was steady, sharp as iron. "I do not deny it. I saved a child's life." The chamber erupted in noise. Some shouted, "Lawbreaker." Others hissed, "Dangerous." A few voices, quieter, whispered, "He saved a child." The high speaker slammed his staff, and silence fell. His 6 eyes narrowed. "You admit your crime. Then why should you not be punished?" The human's voice grew stronger. "Because no law is higher than life. A child was dying. I had the power to save him. To do nothing would have been the true crime." Gasps rippled across the chamber. The council was not used to such defiance. The high speaker leaned forward. "You dare set yourself above the law? The law protects order. Without it, the stars would fall into chaos." The human met his gaze without fear. "What good is order if it lets children die? What good is a law that punishes mercy?" A wave of arguments rose among the delegates. Some shouted, "He must be executed." Others cried, "He speaks truth." The mother could not stay silent. She stepped forward, her voice breaking through the noise. "Look at him," she cried, lifting her son for all to see. The boy's chest rose and fell, his breathing strong, his skin glowing with life. "My child was dying. Every doctor turned me away, but this human gave him back to me. Is that a crime?" Her words hung in the air. Many in the chamber looked at the boy, their eyes wide with shock. They could see the faint glow of the artificial lungs beneath his skin, pulsing like living light. The high speaker's voice was sharp. "Silence. You are not permitted to speak in this hall." But the mother's voice only grew louder. "I will not be silent. If this is justice, then justice is broken. If this is law, then law has no heart. The chamber shook with noise again, half fury, half wonder. The human turned his head slightly, and for the first time a faint smile touched his lips. One counselor, a tall being with wings of light, stood. His voice was calm but firm. The law was made to keep fear in check. But what we see now is not fear, it is life. Perhaps we have been wrong, another counselor hissed. Wrong? If we allow humans to spread their forbidden science, what will follow? They will change everything. They will break the balance, the debate raged. The mother's heart pounded as she held her child close. The boy stirred faintly, opening his eyes. His small voice whispered, "Mother?" Tears filled her eyes. She kissed his forehead. "Yes, my son. You are safe." Her words carried across the chamber. Even the hardest counselors felt their hearts stir. A living child stood where there should have been death. The truth could not be denied. The high speaker raised his staff again. Enough, the council must decide. Shall this human be punished for his crime, or honored for his act? The hall fell into silence. The vote would begin. The mother closed her eyes, whispering a prayer. The human stood tall, unshaken, ready to face whatever came. One by one, the counselors cast their voices. Some cried, "Punish." Others called, "Honor." The chamber shook with the sound of choice, the clash of fear and hope. At last, all eyes turned to the high speaker. His 6 eyes glowed as he lifted his staff. The council has spoken. The judgment will be given. The mother held her son tighter, her body trembling. The human did not move, though his heart pounded like war drums. The hall was silent, waiting for the words that would shape the future of Mercy itself. The council hall was silent. Every eye was fixed on the high speaker. His silver skin glimmered under the light, and his 6 eyes glowed with cold fire. In his hand, the staff of judgment pulsed with power. The human stood bound on the trial platform. The mother held her son close, and the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. At last, the high speaker's voice rang out. The council has spoken. The judgment is this: the human is guilty, but mercy cannot be called crime. The words rippled through the chamber like a wave. Some gasped in shock, others murmured in disbelief, and still others bowed their heads as if a burden had been lifted. The high speaker continued. The law was made to preserve order, but today we have seen a higher truth. A child lives because one dared to show compassion. We cannot condemn life. We cannot kill mercy. Therefore the law will change. The chamber erupted with noise. Delegates shouted, some angry, some relieved, some crying. For the first time in living memory, the galactic law would bend. The human lifted his head. His eyes, once cold with defiance, now shone with quiet relief. The chains that bound his wrists dissolved into sparks of light. The mother fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She clutched her son, who breathed steadily, his small chest rising with the rhythm of the artificial lungs. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you." The high speaker raised his staff once more. "From this day forward, no act of healing shall be forbidden. Human science, alien science, all life-saving acts will be honored, not punished. Mercy shall stand above fear. Life shall stand above law." The declaration shook the hall. The old law, once carved into stone, cracked in spirit and fell away. In its place, a new law was born, one built not on fear but on hope. The mother rose, holding her son high for all to see. "He lives," she cried, "because mercy was stronger than fear." The boy blinked, his small voice carrying softly across the chamber. "Thank you." Delegates fell silent. The innocence of a child's voice was heavier than any law, more powerful than any weapon. The human stepped down from the platform. The mother turned to him, her eyes shining with gratitude. She knelt before him, tears on her face. "I owe you everything. My son breathes because of you. My people will never forget." The doctor shook his head. His voice was quiet but firm. "I did not do this for glory. I did it because life must never be abandoned. Remember that truth and carry it forward." The boy reached out with a small hand. The human bent down, taking it gently. For a moment their hands held. One human, one alien child, united by breath itself. Outside the hall, the news spread like fire across the stars. On distant worlds, whispers turned into shouts. Some were afraid, but many were filled with wonder. A human had defied the galaxy and won. Not with war, not with power, but with mercy. Ships that once carried only soldiers now carried doctors. Barriers that once divided species began to crack. Across the colonies, children breathed easier that night, for hope had been born. The mother walked from the hall with her son in her arms, the human doctor by her side. The crowd outside parted for them, some bowing their heads, some reaching out to touch the child who had lived. The boy smiled faintly, his new lungs strong. His small voice whispered to his mother, "The stars. They look brighter." She kissed his forehead, her tears falling onto his hair. "Yes, my son, because you are here to see them." The human looked up at the sky, his eyes reflecting the endless stars. He had risked everything, and for a time he had feared the galaxy would crush him, but now he saw something different. A future where compassion was not a weakness, but the strongest power of all. The mother turned to him. "You did more than save a life. You saved the heart of the galaxy." The human said nothing, but a faint smile touched his lips. As they walked into the night, the boy breathing freely between them, the stars seemed to burn brighter indeed. A new chapter had begun, not just for one family, not just for one human, but for every world under the law. The old law was gone. A new law lived, life above law, mercy above fear, and in that truth the galaxy found hope.